Hey, starting off this video blog off right. Yeah, we saw some sunshine today. I hope you got a chance to soak it up and wear those shades for at least an hour or two. Because now it's back to reality, back to gloomy skies and a messy forecast. That leads us into this latest edition of Snow Talk. Good evening. I'm Wave 3 News meteorologist Brian Good. Got to take you through this rain event that is coming our way in the next 48 hours, lasting to about Saturday afternoon. And then I'm going to go in a little more detail on this setup for next week and give you a preview into the middle of December. All right, we got a lot to talk about, and I have a very limited time here for video blog, so let's get right on into it here. First off, these stats, as we always do, holding steady, 3.7 for snowfall for the date, well above where we should be. On the board, still only have one item, Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. I wanted to add December 18th, but it goes beyond the 14 days that I try to stick to the limit here for this Snow Talk Outlook. So it's not on the board yet, but it gives you a hint of what I'm about to talk about toward the end of the video. Here's the cloud cover. I've got the infrared on with a black background, so you can really see the different layers of clouds. The brighter white is the more high, thin clouds taking place, and that's mainly across Kentucky. But the cloud cover really is streamed in overhead. And it extends all the way back to about Missouri. They get a break there in Texas, and then more clouds in the southwest, where that rain is in California. That's important to note, because that break there in Texas, that'll be our break here in about 24 hours from now. That'll be our main warming wind, too. The wind really warms up in that break period. Nice warm surge at that point, leading before that rain event kicks in for Friday. Speaking of that, here's the latest on the track of the low pressure. Good agreement here that came out on the 18Z models, which is good. I believe this is the GFS showing the track right over Louisville, so pockets of moderate to occasionally heavy rain as it passes the Ohio Valley. The European, very similar to that idea, tracking over the area, a little more concentrated. The resolution's not great on these models, on the global models like this, but you can see the path of heaviest rain right across Kentuckiana, really, as we head through this event. Let me show you the current temperature. This is important, because it's going to lead into my discussion for tomorrow. Look at the numbers. Try to memorize this the best you can. 29 North Vernon, below freezing or so in PLA, 30, 34 in Corden, Louisville 37, lower 30s in Campbellsville. Okay, get that stuck in your mind. These are the 9 o'clock Eastern temperatures. Now, this is where the RPM model says we should be at 9 o'clock. All right, well, 37 in Louisville, well, it's saying we should be 36. That's close. North Vernon is 29, it's saying it should be 32. In the southern counties, it's way too warm already. It's already 32 in Campbellsville, and it should be 36. So you see the numbers here are already off on how these models are initiating for this event for later on tonight and tomorrow. And that's important because we do have moisture streaming our way. Now, the Futurecast and the RPM model is taking us down even further around 5 in the morning. So it's conceivable these numbers we have currently could be even lower than what the models are showing. And that's important, as I said, because moisture is streaming at us by late morning and midday. And notice what it's doing. It's trying to pick up the idea of maybe some sleet or even a burst of snow that can't take place. The cold air is thicker in this area, but the low-level cold is can be pronounced in central Kentucky. So my concern is the sleet area and maybe some snow could be a little more like this than what the model is showing. I'm going to make a final call on that on the forecast tonight on the 11 o'clock news, but it wouldn't surprise me, just considering how the models are not really initiating temperature profiles great already, and they haven't been the past few days. So that's worth watching. The good news is it shouldn't cause any travel concerns, because we're going to warm up throughout the day enough to get us above freezing. It's not going to be a warm day by any stretch. 30s for most of us, a few hours maybe at 40 or so in the afternoon. But that first wave moves quickly to the east, so by Thursday evening, the steady rain should be out of here. Then we're in that break zone. Watch what happens to the numbers. See, we're at 36 at 8 o'clock. By the time we get to 5 a.m. Friday morning, during the overnight, we rise to 40. We now get that strong south wind that's kicking in. That means the Gulf of Mexico is open for business, and here comes the rain. It should start off across Indiana. We'll get the steady rain first. Kentucky will wait a bit longer, and because you wait longer, you may benefit and get some 60-degree weather in our southern counties. Louisville, even with the clouds and rain, it still shows us warming up close to 60. By late night. I wouldn't rule that out. I don't know if we'll go 60 in town. I think the models may be too warm. But our southern counties, yep, you guys certainly hit 60 or higher out of this event. But look at that band of moderate rain. This is about 11:30 Friday night. And this is going to be a messy Friday night for us if this happens. I know a lot of you may have plans and holiday parties to get to. Let's hope this doesn't happen, but there's a chance. But here's good news, at least, to end that system with, is the trend is to get it out of here by Saturday morning, and the clouds may actually break up in the afternoon in Indiana, That may be too aggressive, but at least it is trending drier on Saturday than wetter. So we got the barge sun and glow taking place Saturday night. So great news there. All right, here's the NAM model. It did initialize good for Louisville, but man, it did poor across Indiana, and it definitely poor in southern Kentucky. So again, temperature profiles very important as we do the overnight. It's going pure rain during the daylight hours tomorrow, but I really suspect there's going to be something frozen involved falling from the sky, the way it's looking at this point. And then here comes the main wave Friday afternoon. It's aiming on Friday night. It's a little bit slower. Instead of 11:30, it's thinking like 3 in the morning Saturday. Not a huge difference in timing. Overnight is going to be the trend for heaviest rain, but it does dry us out Saturday afternoon, and hopefully make for a nice Saturday evening. Rainfall-wise, this is the potential here. If you get caught in these rain bands, over an inch of rain, maybe over an inch and a half. It's worth watching. All right, we mentioned before about the positive PNA. That usually means the jet stream is taking a jump upward in Canada in the west and usually would dive down over the east. This would be a normal PNA being positive if it didn't have any other influences, to be honest with you, but this is not a normal setup. It's going to have a very strong positive PNA. Sorry about that, my cursor just died on me. There we go. Positive PNA across Canada, and it drops down. But the problem is the NAO is not sharply negative, so it goes up, and then it kind of is like, not really sure what to do through here. This is the iffy part of the jet stream, and that's important because we're starting to see problems now developing on the models on how they're going to handle this amplification for next week. Here's a global view from the Euro. Here's the North Pole up here at the top. Here's Kentucky down here, United States. This, by the way, is the typhoon that's heading over toward the Philippines, and you'll see on the as in future runs, but it just gets absorbed. It doesn't really get interjected into the pattern at all in the mid-latitudes like we normally would see for a typical recurving typhoon theory scenario. So the typhoon doesn't look to be an issue at all in our weather pattern. But look what's happening. A lot of low pressures here, strong low pressure, in fact, in the Gulf of Alaska. Here's your positive PNA, certainly, with high pressure control in the central and west. But then it's trying to undercut highs. Anytime you get high pressure in Canada, you got to look for low pressure underneath it in the United States. And that's what it's trying to do. But it's having a tough time with this little guy here, this little storm. How close to the coast is this thing going to curve depends on the amplification on the eastern part of that jet stream. Now, what I've done here is taken a different variety of looks at the models. This may be hard to see on your screen, certainly, but this is the GFS, and this is the Euro. The Canadian is not showing up, but it's pretty similar to the Euro. These are the ensembles of the same models: GFS ensemble, Euro ensemble, and the Canadian ensemble. All right, ensembles are basically the averages of different ideas of that same model run. The operational runs, which fluctuate the most, and this is what people post on social media more than anything, and you got to be careful with that because they're not always, I post them if I feel like they are the right idea, but you got to be careful with them. All right, GFS. It's got a storm off the coast. It has another piece of energy diving in, but it really just doesn't dig the trough in at all. It's fairly flat with this system moving out. You see what the European does. Very strong low pressure hugging the coastline. It just drives the energy down, and our system gets cut off. Wraps around that low, it gets cut off in the southern part of the country here in the Ohio Valley. The ensembles on the GFS are trending, though, toward a colder solution. The European certainly does. It has a colder look to it. And then the Canadian also has a very similar look to the European. So what does this tell me? And what does this tell you? Well, this low is going to be the kicker. How is this low going to behave as it heads up the East Coast? Is it going to bomb out in the Northeast? If so, it has a strong support here for the Canadian to cut off the piece of energy that wraps in behind it. If it's a weaker low and heads out to sea, then the GFS may be onto something, to be honest with you. And that's the debate we're going to have. So I think at this point, since the Canadian and the European have really nailed these solutions better for the Northeast coast than the GFS, I'm leaning the forecast in that direction. Here are all those indices. We mentioned the PNA. Again, going way positive here on the model trends. So that supports the jet stream being high in the west. The problem is the eastern part of the jet, and that's why, because it's not a strong negative NAO. In fact, it fluctuates. It kind of goes up and down, where it's really struggling on how to handle the eastern side there of the jet stream. So we'll watch that system carefully. Right now I'm going with rain or snow. Stay tuned. Here's the Canadian long term, by the way. It does show a warming trend after the system early next week. The core of the warm air in the central part of the country will be on the edge of it. So I don't think we're going to get blowtorched here. I think we'll just be on the edge of some warming by the 13th of December. But then after that, by the 18th, Yep. And other models, including the GFS, show a cold blast coming our way by the 18th of the month. So, running out of time. Sorry, guys. But that kind of explains, hopefully, more detail of the system for early next week. And a lot of rain in the short term. I'll see you tonight at 11.